Hey guys, welcome back to the Superduke rebuild project. So I know it's been some time since the last video. I'd like to apologize for that, guys, but we've had a couple of delays. We've been waiting on parts. I've been having a great time riding the bike, but finally I'm back to give you guys something. So like I said, we've been waiting for a couple of parts to arrive, and I've been thinking that whilst we're waiting, let's just get some service done on the bike. So this is something that I typically do on any bike that I get, used, new to me. And this is something that I start out with. I go through the bike, I try and find things that haven't been done, or if it's questionable that has the service been done, I'll just go ahead and do it anyway. So on this bike, that's what we're going to do in today's episode. I'm going to be going through the oil, changing the oil filter, the spark plugs, because I think this bike is still pretty low mileage, and the spark plugs only need to be done at 30,000 kilometers, however miles that is. We are going to be skipping the spark plugs. We're just going to be doing the oil. And then one other thing that has been bothering me ever since I've been riding this bike is the chain. The chain is so rusty because the bike was thawed out in the elements, it got rained on, and the chain rusted up. So that's something that I want to address today. And then one other thing is the brakes. The brakes on this bike, the brake pads are a bit low, and the bike is even starting to squeal whenever you come to a stop. So yeah, just stick with us for the episode, guys. We're going to be doing a quick service on the bike and making sure that the bike is ready for when the parts arrive. Then we're going to be hitting KTM. This is what we've got for today. We have the oil right here on the left hand side. This is the 10W60. This is actually oil from KTM basically. I just didn't want to complicate it that much. I just went to KTM, bought some oil, and while we were there, we got the oil filter kit. So this is what we're going to be swapping out as far as the pads are concerned. We have front and rear brake pads. I think both of those are actually done. And then for the chain, we have chain cleaner. I'm just going to be going through the chain with chain cleaner because I have actually tried to lube this chain before. So I'm going to be going at it with the chain cleaner so that I can get all the lube and grime off of the chain first, and then I'm going to be trying to go at it with this wire wheel that we have here to try and get the rust that's on this chain. We also have a sanding wheel here, and this is just going to be for the sprocket. So the sprocket itself is not that bad, it just seems like a light coat of surface rust. So I'm just going to be using the sanding wheel to sort of just buff it away and not go at it that much with the wire wheel. But yeah, let's get into it, guys. These Brembos are actually the easiest brakes that I've had to remove. Just these two bolts and then the whole caliper slips off. The brake pads themselves are not held by any retaining pins, which is a plus because these tend to seize over a lot of hot and cold cycles. You simply just pop these off and they come right out. Here you see me cleaning the pistons and the caliper itself just to remove any brake dust. I then proceed to push the pistons back so that I can have more space when putting the new pads in. This is just some copper anti-seize, and I use this on the bolts that go into the caliper so that the next time when I pull these off I don't struggle. Like I said, because there's no retaining pins here, these pads just slide right back into the caliper. And look at that, the brake caliper's back on the wheel in minutes. This is the other side of the wheel. You just need to repeat the process here again. pads in the front actually weren't that bad, but I'd say they had a third of the material left on the pads. This is just one of those things that while we are here, let's just clean the pistons before they get to the point where they seize and you no longer have effective brakes. I'll later tighten all these bolts using the torque wrench. Now we're moving on to the rear brake pads. The caliper in the rear actually does utilize a retaining pin. I'm actually glad that I didn't have to change these pads because it was already a mission to try and get that guy off. Alright, so we're pretty much done with all the brakes. The ones in the rear, as you saw in the last clip, they actually look to still be okay. There's about, I'd say, 2/3 of material still left on those pads, so I'm gonna let those be. Whereas the ones in the front, I'd say we had like 1/3 of pad material left on those pads, so those ones I've chosen to replace. Now we move on to the chain. So the chain, we're gonna give it a little bit of a go with this wire wheel on the drill, and then we are going to then see if we can't sand down the sprocket just a little bit. We might also give this a go and see whether we can't sand this down a little bit, make it smooth, get it ready for paint. So we're going to do chain, we're going to try and touch up this little guy as well. In order to get better access to the chain, I saw the last time I tried to give this a go, this chain guard was in the way. So we're going to remove this first so we can get better access to this chain, and then we're going to go at it. This chain guard is held by 4 bolts, 1 in the rear and 3 in the front of the swinger. Just remove those and it's out. The chain is now exposed for me to go at it with the wire wheel. In some cases you'll see when I'm going at the chain, it's actually lifting a little bit. That's because there's a bit of slack on this chain, but I'm going to address this once we have the tool that can loosen and tighten the chain slack. I don't know about you guys, but this looks a hell of a lot better than what it started out with. So I used a wire wheel on the drill, and we did a few passes on this chain here, and it's looking a whole lot better. It's not perfect, but it's a whole lot better now. The sprocket, I went at it with actually a smaller wire wheel and the little rotary tool that I have here. I actually also managed to do the back side of this chain. Let me just bring you guys this side. So right there, managed to do the back side of the chain. The entire thing was also looking a hell of a lot better. I actually didn't think I was going to be able to get in here when I started, but when I had a look at it, I was actually able to get in there from the side, this side. But now the back side of the sprocket though, I can't get in there properly to remove that rust over there. Even from the front, the space is very limited. I won't be able to do it properly. So for that one, what I'm going to need is the tool to loosen the chain. So once I can loosen this chain, then I think I'm going to be able to remove the sprocket, and then I can just do it when it's flat on the ground. So I think that will be the best approach for the rear side of that sprocket there. So I actually forgot about this. We said that we're going to try and get this ready for paint. So I actually think I'm gonna get started on this. So this guy, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna try and sand him down just a little bit with the wire wheel, and then just try and make it smooth, and then we can try and paint it. Now obviously the swing arm has a bit of a texture to it, a bit of a the finish here has a bit of some texture on it. I don't know how we're gonna reproduce that, but we'll try and figure that out during paint. So we're gonna give this guy here a bit of a wire wheel just to make him flat and smooth, and then down here we're gonna do the same right over here, and then along these sort of raised edges I'm gonna try and get a file, and then we're gonna file this down a little bit. So we've given this a sand, and I've gotten it a little bit, I've gone a bit down, I've gotten it a little bit level, but you can still see, I don't know if it's visible through the camera, you can still see the scratch marks that it got when it took a hit. So I don't want to sand this too low, I don't want to compromise the integrity of the swing arm itself. So what I think is going to end up happening here is we're going to fill this, then we're going to smooth it out, make it all level with the surface around the scratch, and then we are going to paint this. Another area that's going to need a touch of paint is going to be right here on this subframe here. We have a little tiny scratch here that we're going to need to touch this up. So I actually am wondering whether I want to paint this whole thing. I actually haven't disassembled this to see what the subframe looks like on this bike in its entirety, but we'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll just get some touch-up paint and then just put a couple of spots on this thing, or maybe I'm gonna try it out now. I'm gonna sand it down a little bit, just make this area a little bit bigger, and then we'll see whether we have the whole thing repainted or we just touch up this spot here. Can you tell that I like using this wire wheel? Okay, I'm using it everywhere now. But anyway, I think that's gonna be it for everything that needs this wire wheel for today. So let's move on to changing the oil. This should be decent. So just to show also, even after the bike has been switched off, and this is just the kill switch. As you can see, headlights are still on, but this guy still refuses to open. You take all these precautions to not get oil on the floor, and what happens? The bike just laughs at you. I will later torque all these to the required specification. As if the first batch of oil that was on the floor was not enough, I had to make another mess while filling up the bike. This funnel is actually not the right one for this job, and the reason why I'm spilling so much oil. I'm also not doing this as per the service manual, so please consult your service manual when doing this. So after spilling all that oil on the floor, we finally got it done. We've changed the oil, we've changed the strainers, we've changed the oil filter. We have even cleaned up the chain free of rust now, and we have also prepared the spots on the swingarm as well as on the subframe for paint. So if you ask me, man, I mean, we got a lot of stuff done today. So the build is actually, it's coming along nicely. We're getting there. And I mean, next up is going to be the cosmetic stuff. So the damaged tank and to replace the plastics, which are on a special order. So those will be here in a couple of weeks. I think they'll take the longest to arrive. But if you take my word for it, they are worth the wait. So yeah, please stick around for the rest of the build, guys. Subscribe if you haven't. Give the video a like so you can push it to other like-minded people such as yourself. And I'll be seeing you guys in the next episode.
Oh, and just for bonus content, something came in the mail today as we were wrapping up this episode. So, any guesses?